Today we will talk about XLM, Chain, Velo, and XRP, and how it ties into Lightnet and JP Morgan. Lightnet calls out how they are the payment infrastructure network that has the most capabilities, which is probably a little biased. There are also extremely important connections into Visa, tying in to everything I have already called out. Specifically in today's topic relating to the history of Velo and Lightnet. Velo has been having a marketing push over the last couple of months now, and they have specifically posted about XLM and XRP. Chain and XCN come into play here because of the history of all of the parties involved. And there is also some interesting speculation on connections into BlackRock. I have talked about Chain and XCN in the past. However, I largely didn't concentrate on it a lot because in my initial interpretation of things, it sounds as if the interconnected history, which involved multiple company acquisitions, could have taken away from the potential significance of XCN itself. However, with a lot of new attention and content put out on XCN, I thought it would be an appropriate time to take another look. Here is a clip from JPM talking about their DLT service connecting Visa and SWIFT with a lot of international institutions.
Imagine tapping into this robust ecosystem and immersing your business into a vetted network of participants. That's Link, a secure, private, permissioned blockchain-based network. Pioneering financial institutions are already harnessing Link and its applications, collaborating with trusted payment technology networks to revolutionize their businesses. Confirm by Link, our global account validation service, verifies billions of bank accounts from thousands of institutions around the world, helping your clients reduce the risk of payment failure, mitigate fraud, improve straight-through processing, and automate manual processes.
Visa has a new tokenized asset platform, which was launched in October of 2024. And with the connections in between Chain and Velo here, it is an important point, and we will come back to it again here in a little bit.
So you're introducing the Visa tokenized asset platform. Walk me through what VTAP will do.
Yeah, so we're super excited about the announcement this week. So VTAP gives the ability for banks to issue and manage fiat-backed tokens. And so one of the things that we've seen is really the growth and excitement around stable coins, which are now at an all-time high, around 170 billion in circulation. And we talk to banks all over the world that are really interested in figuring out how can they issue their own fiat-backed products.
Lightnet has been talking about the mainstream adoption for DLT technology really picking up in 2025, as can be shown in this tweet here from one of Lightnet's founders. Velo has been concentrating on its own stablecoins for quite a while now. It's been tied into their tokenization protocol itself. And with the Thailand Central Bank possibly teaming up, that could really tie in to the trend with tokenization of fiat into stablecoins.
So we're actually working on 2 to 3 live use case. We are actually the only company in Thailand that got sandboxed by Thai Central Bank. However, we cannot PR yet. We only can PR in 2-3 months. We are the only company now that can send USDC into the Fireblock wallet of a bank in Thailand, and Central Bank recognized that as a US dollar.
Caleb and Brown has also recently gotten XCN put up on their platform, and they are the same ones who listed Velo probably about 6 to 9 months ago at this point. I first talked about Chain and XCN in my Stellar and APFII content, and I didn't really concentrate on it a whole lot From the timeline, I got the impression that the tech had essentially been stripped out of chain, and that is what Lightnet got, who then went up and created Velo. So I didn't really ever pay too much attention there. It's just pretty coincidental that there has been a lot of XCN price action and announcements just within the past week alone. So I think I included this in that piece of content a while back. And the timeline here is pretty interesting. And instead of just reviewing this, I put together a few of the press releases instead. In 2016, Visa and Chain got together and created a payments network on Chain's DLT. In 2017, Stellar created Lightyear.io, which was created as a for-profit spin-off with the SDF. In 2018, Chain was acquired by Lightyear, and it was renamed to Interstellar. Here is their site online. It doesn't really have a ton of information on it. However, it calls out the CEO at that time, who was Mike Kennedy, and it also calls out Jed. The CEO at that time also has ties into the PayPal mafia and all of its connections. It was a company that was wanting to create, consult, and integrate the Stellar network into the international payments industry and all of its applications. And it specifically calls out Lightnet here. I think that this was actually sent in 2018, and it is a pretty lengthy letter that was sent by the CEO of Chain to Jamie Dimon at JPM. And he was essentially trying to provide some outreach and explain how crypto can actually tokenize the financial system itself. In 2021, Velo joined with Interstellar. And at the end of 2021, Chain created Sequence, which is a DLT as a service, which just so happens kind of compares to what Interstellar concentrated on. Crypto Canvas has been talking a lot about this, and I think that he has made some pretty interesting connections that have made me want to check into it a bit more. And before we get into that, here is the business architecture head related to DLT with JPM.
How are you seeing the world of digital assets, the world of distributed ledger technology evolve, right? What are the sort of interesting trends that we are seeing, which you believe will capture the imagination of both institutions and retails and government, and will sort of start shaping, I guess, the future of fintech or the future of financial services?
So one of the big trends that I'm seeing, at least in the last few days of the Elevanti Insights Forum, Singapore FinTech Festival, there's been a lot more discussions from an interoperability perspective. Now, we have always talked about interoperability because it's such a nice topic to talk about. But when we first started talking about interoperability, that was like probably when blockchain first started. That was one of the first things that everyone talked about. But it was really a lot of talk because at that point in time, there were no live use cases. And without live use cases, it's very difficult to talk about interoperability. It becomes just this very high level, very fluffy idea
Very
around
motherhood and apple pie.
Yes, exactly. So, but what we are seeing this time round, this year, is that we are talking about real interoperability in terms of how we are going to connect our platforms. And the main difference is because platforms are going live, we have live use cases. What we are doing is, a great example, we do average of $2 billion transactions a day. We do have other platforms out there doing digital securities, digital assets. Ultimately, we need to look at how we can connect across these different platforms.
That part is important because there have been some posts from Lightnet that seem to hint that there is some kind of connection into JPM. which also ties into Stellar and Chain because of the complicated history of acquisitions. Here, I want to play a couple of parts from a couple of crypto canvas videos.
Jamie Dimon, right? They created Onyx, and 3 years later, Chain changed their protocol's name to Onyx as well. So Nick is saying that there's an article out there that says that JP Morgan changed their name from Onyx to Kinexys, because that happened about 1 month ago, because they didn't want to be confused with this Onyx of XCN. Now, my rebuttal to that is, first of all, JP Morgan is the A side, right? They're the big conglomerate corporation. Onyx Coin Protocol is just this small little protocol that changed their name 3 years after JP Morgan launched their blockchain. So wouldn't JP Morgan just send them a cease and desist letter, right? If they really didn't like that, they would just send them a letter and say, hey, stop doing this. That seems way more likely to me than them going out and changing their name and rebranding everything just because this small little protocol.
And to correct a point from earlier, the letter from the CEO of Chain to Jamie Dimon was actually in 2017. In 2018, the two of them actually met. Here we have another one that begins to take the connections a step farther and explains how it's not just connections in between XCN, Chain, Velo, Lightnet, and Stellar, but there are also some potential connections into BlackRock. And it's important to call out in advance here that the JPM Onyx changed its name to Kinexys.
Okay, so we're talking about Onyx XCN, right? But then there's confusion about JP Morgan's Onyx blockchain, right? Which has become Kinexys. But as it turns out, BlackRock is the number 2 shareholder in JP Morgan as well, with a 7.19% stake. So there's BlackRocks, Blackstones all over this graphic, right? Onyx is a Blackstone, BlackRocks. So we're starting to see what's going on here. Now, just about a month and a half ago, November 6th, Onyx by JP Morgan rebranded to Kinexys, as if there wasn't enough name changes and confusion going on. That happened very recently. So we'll click this, and it's very interesting because what I'm about to read is really illustrates why we're spending all this time as a community crowdsourcing all this information, because big things are at stake here, right? It says JP Morgan to rebrand and expand its blockchain and tokenization platform. So this sentence right down here, it says the early adoption of digital assets has paid off. JP Morgan's blockchain platform has processed over $1.5 trillion since its launch just a few years ago. And the bank estimates that Kinexys now handles roughly $2 billion per day, right? So that's why we're doing all this, because the future of the global financial system's at stake, right? It's going to be underpinned by blockchain. If you don't know that, you should probably get up to speed because things are moving fast. So for those of you guys who do get this document, you can click where it says Kinexys, and it'll take you to the Kinexys white paper. Now, we're not going to read it right now because it's very long, but I do recommend for those of you guys who are readers to read that, because there's some good gems in there. Now, this is about to come even more full circle. So again, about a month and a half ago, right when Onyx by JP Morgan rebranded to Kinexys, Kinexys partnered with Fidelity, right? And BlackRock is the number 1 shareholder of Fidelity, and Fidelity backed Chain, which is now Onyx and XCN. So we're seeing Fidelity all over the place. So we got to start really paying attention to Fidelity. We can click this and read it really quick. Same article, but it's at the bottom. It says, JP Morgan has also recently disclosed its significant exposure to Bitcoin ETFs and welcomed fellow crypto player Fidelity International.
Take a look at this strange device that I'm holding in my hand. It's smaller than a quarter, but I believe
Really big full circle loop here. And at the bottom, you'll see JP Morgan also partnered with Visa and Citibank for a regulated settlement network. Okay, so this is really interesting because, again, Visa and Citibank are, one of these primary five. So we'll click this and we'll read it really quick. Now it says, this is by CoinDesk. It says U.S. financial industry to explore sharing ledger technology for multi-asset transactions. The New York Innovation Center of the Federal Reserve Bank of New York will act as a technical observer. So, I mean, this rabbit hole just took us to the Federal Reserve, ladies and gentlemen. So, we're going straight to the top of the pyramid. We're starting to see what's going on. Big shifts. It says Citibank, JP Morgan, MasterCard, Swift, and Deloitte are among major companies with an interest in financial services teaming up to explore sharing ledger technology by simulating multi-asset transactions in US dollars. So, I mean, they're continuing to prepare for this new blockchain economy. I think it's going to be rolled out sooner than later.
It is a pretty coincidental thing that JPM is now paying attention to and even acknowledging social media posts on crypto and ISO 222 compliance.
One last point that I just want to highlight is that, yes, we as financial institutions are looking at ISO, but also the fintech space. When I Google, as we were doing this research, and you kind of go on YouTube, you see some of all these like crypto creators, and it's so interesting how they're speaking about ISO and adopting it as they are building their own platforms.
And to be quite honest there, I don't think that these people are watching YouTube and going online a whole lot to learn from people who actually create content on this. I think that's some kind of a ploy to make it seem like it's some kind of a new development when a lot of the financial infrastructure and its convergence into DLT has been in progress for probably about 10 years at this point.